And we are live. Welcome back to Talk It Up, everyone. Today's guest, German Bernal. How you doing, my guy?
Very good, man. You?
Doing good. Every time, because people ask me, like, who's your next guest? I go, German. And they go, German? Like a German guy?
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, his name's German. And they all think that's weird.
You know, that's the thing too. But if I tell them I'm Herman, then all of a sudden I'm Arab. So that's how that goes.
Is that your biological first name?
Yeah, Herman.
So where did German come from?
So it's funny because the way I know what time of my life people knew me from is by what they call me.
You're actually the second person to tell me that.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot who the other person was. Oh, it was my friend Anthony who does movies now.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, some people know me as Ant, some people know me as Anthony, and he had like a couple other nicknames. And so he was saying the same thing, depending on what they call him, that's how you'll know where you know him from.
So my childhood, everybody called me Herman. I don't know why.
Like Pee Wee Herman?
Yeah, Pee Wee Herman. Yeah. Oh, bro, the jokes. Herman Munster, Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, I forgot about Herman Munster.
Yeah, you know what I mean? You got to be a little older for that one. But then and then when I made it to my 20s, everybody I knew in my 20s called me German. So everybody called me German because, we worked at the call center.
Mm-hmm.
So being in the call center environment, the second somebody would call in, if I introduce myself as, hey, this is Herman, they're all of a sudden they don't hear a Mexican accent. They hear Her. You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, they cut you off and they're like, can I speak to somebody in America?
Oh,
you know
Jesus.
What I mean? Yeah. So after that, I was like, hey, man, so when people will call in, I'm like, hey, well, this is German Bernal. I'll help you today. You know what I mean?
So did you make that up?
I made it up. It's because I was getting trash scores on my calls, man. Trash scores.
What, do you remember why? Like, why German on all the names?
Oh, I mean, because it's the easiest to say. Because, if I have to tell people, so I came up with this name, but yeah, my name's German, like the country without the Y. You know what I mean? And it was just, I don't know why it was cool for me to say. So
that's kind of genius.
It was. I mean, I'll give myself that much credit.
You brought up, you deserve the credit, man.
Thank you.
You brought up call center stuff, which is kind of where I first met you, was at Converges back in the day. I used to work at a Sitel before that. Did you ever work there?
Never.
I used to work there with a guy named Chase Claypool. I don't know if you remember him. I think he might have worked at Converges for a while too.
Sounds kind of familiar.
Chase Claypool. Jesus Christ. The wide receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I was like, why does that sound so familiar?
James Claypool is his name. He was a rapper. They call him Spit'ems. I don't know why I said Chase. He was so loud. He was a loud guy from Oakland. And he would talk like this, thank you for calling AT&T. And he would just, that's how he was. And we would all hang out. And he went through this thing. They made a rule at Sitel where you don't have to give your real name. I think someone made an issue about names, kind of like what you were saying. And they said, but whatever name you give, that's your name for the whole call.
Yeah, you got to
just stick with one. So we decided we're going to bend that rule and just use the most outrageous names. So we would just call people and we'd just be like, hi, or when they would call in, they're like, thank you for calling AT&T. This is Stick and I'm here to help you out today. And we would just, and it got from basic, my name's Milk, and just to see if they would agree. And then we would go, I remember he would always go, this is Thaddeus Ratcliffe. It got to the point where we're just making up crazy shit. But it reminds me I remember we'd go into the coachings and they're like, I mean, technically these guys aren't breaking the rules. So then they had to put out a new rule where we had to use our names again.
We had to work one time on St. Paddy's Day. So the rule was, and they couldn't cut you for points if you answered with an accent and you spoke with an accent the whole time. So my name at that time was Patty O'Malley. So somebody would call out and be like, hey, this is Patty O'Malley. How may I help you today? And as long as you spoke with your accent the whole time,
they would grade you the same.
You'd be fine. And people would be good. But man, just staying in that character the whole call.
You kind of have to have fun at those jobs.
Oh man,
they're not fun jobs.
They would drive you insane.
I do remember this about myself because I had some fun there.
Mm-hmm.
But I really everything I do in life. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna try to be the best at this. Even if I'm not, I'm not one of those sore losers that can't take when someone, even if something as silly as a call center, I got really good at that job because I remember thinking, not just the scores, they would give out awards and bonuses and stuff, and you were more likely to get overtime if you had higher scores and stuff. But I would just go all out. And I started realizing, which is not why I don't work there, but towards the end when I was approached with a different job, it was very easy. I'm like, yeah, I'm done with this job.
Oh yeah.
It's because I got so good at, what was it? Do you remember the name of the system we used that we would find, the library? Oh, Jesus. And to keep it
CSP.
short. Yes, there you go. And it was like a online Google, for the company where if someone's like, my dog ate my phone and I'm trying, or that's a bad one because no one called for that. But if someone's my phone speaking to me in Spanish, we'd look it up, how to get from Spanish back to English. And I started like memorizing that. So every problem someone had, I would just have it there. I'd either have it bookmarked or I knew exactly what keywords to type in.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm going to get so good at this. And my scores went up. And then people are still assholes. And so I was like, I remember thinking that, like, I am great. Like, I am the best guy here, like, which I was. And that was my thought. And these customers will still blame you. Like, and they didn't care. And I'm like, this job sucks.
Mm-hmm. And well, that's the thing though. Like, cause if you ever been in athletics, like if you don't walk on that court or field and you don't think you're the best one on there, why'd you even show up?
Which is why I don't get mad when athletes are arrogant. I'm like, boxers and fighters are super like that. You have to be. I'm like, I respect it.
They're like, oh, that guy's too cocky. No, he has the right mind.
You have to convince yourself you're that guy.
Exactly.
Yeah. I've always respected that mindset when someone's able to just fully, because it's okay. What I don't like is when someone doesn't know how to take a loss. Because then it's like, what are we even doing, man? Like, I can never win an argument with you. I can't even win a physical competition because you'll make up a reason why I didn't really win. I don't like that at all.
And that's the thing too, like, but I mean, let's be honest, that comes with age. You know what I mean?
Sure. I remember having some of it young though. I was never a sore loser. Definitely got better with age. And the sore losers that I knew back then got better with age for sure. Oh yeah.
And I mean, sometimes too, it's some people are inherently able to check the ego, and then some people aren't. I'm short. You know what I mean? So my ego's 6'7" probably, and me, I'm 5'7".
Did you have issues with that when you were younger?
Oh my god, man! Like I what do they call it? Napoleon complex. Oh yes. Yeah, man. Like I had to be bigger, at least spiritually than you are. You know what I mean? So yeah. So I never lost gracefully. I could admit that about myself.
All right, and you're different now.
Oh god, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now I almost want to lose now. You know what I mean? Like if
there's not a lot of rewards to winning that argument.
There's not. So like if it's a physical competition, 9 times out of 10, I can't drop that athletic ego. You know what I mean? But like if it's a verbal confrontation or something like that, I'm like, yeah, bro, yeah, 7 times 7 is 12. Yeah, that's fine, bro. Like we'll roll with that.
Verbal's more of an even playing field though, because you can't really judge that of someone right away. But like physically, there's like, and I was always taller when I was young, but I was really skinny when I played basketball. I didn't get bigger till later on in life. I really learned to respect people's physical builds when I started doing fighting, because you would get these little guys that were just amazing jiu-jitsu guys. Or some of them were just powerful. They would pick you up and slam you because they had the better leverage point. And you're like, man, I can't be judging these people the way they look. And you see it now in MMA. You get a lot of like heavyweight guys that look like they're way out of shape. They're knocking dudes out.
Oh yeah. What's that boxer's name? Tyson Fury?
Yeah, he looks like
God.
Did you see him before he got into shape? Yeah. Oh, he's bad. I think he's like 400 pounds or something.
Monster.
So but you're right. Like if you just saw him, you would think he's just a large, like alcoholic hanging out somewhere with a beer belly.
That's a win for the dad bods right there.
Butterbean, do you remember him?
Oh,
that boxer? Just knocking dudes out.
This guy would just come out windmilling.
Yeah.
And just kill
remember
people.
when he was on Jackass?
Oh, yeah.
Concussed Johnny Knoxville in like a vinyl store.
There's just some things I wouldn't do. You know what I mean? I just wouldn't do that.
I always like to think I would, but I don't think I would do all those things.
God.
Some of them I'm like, dude, you gotta. Maybe you build a tolerance if you're already doing crazy stuff. But.
I think but I also feel like me in my teens, every day was an episode of Jackass. I just didn't get paid for it.
That's true.
You know what I mean? Yeah. I should have followed myself with the camera and I could have made millions.
How much of that was peer pressure though?
All of it was.
Yeah. All of you won't do it, German?
Yeah, I dare you to do it. And like me and my cousins, right? So history thing. When I was younger, I was a very docile child. Like nobody that knows me now would believe that.
Really?
Because like, I mean, you know me well enough. A lot of people know me well enough. Like, hey, that guy's, it's a good time.
Yeah.
But when I was a kid, I was shy. I was quiet. You know what I mean? Probably the bullying and stuff. But so when I got to a certain age, and like probably from whatever age you are in first grade to about 8th grade, like I was just that kid who do people's homework. Like I got picked on, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So one day in 9th grade, like I was just like, nah, this ain't going down like this. You know what I mean? So I remember first day of high school, this dude, I'm standing in line and I had my older sister there, but she wasn't there. For some reason, I couldn't find her this morning. This dude, I'm in line waiting for the breakfast, mostly the chocolate milk and the breakfast pizza. Because that's heaven in high school.
Oh yeah,
you know
the square, octagon, kind of weird.
I don't know what you probably can't eat it now, but you know what I mean. It's too much. It's all gluten. But I was in line and this dude cuts in front of me. You know what I mean? And I had like this montage of like all the times that like I got beat up as a kid, like just fly through my head in this split second. And then I was just like, not today, bro. Not today. So this guy's like one of those cholo dudes with like a little rat tail.
Mm-hmm.
So I reach up and I grab his little rat tail. And I'm like, hey, man. I was like, you can cut in front of them, but you're not going to cut in front of me. And he was like, you know, que puto, what you want, blah, blah, blah. Unbeknownst to him, I didn't speak Spanish at the time. So like, okay, you know,
yeah,
it's a kung fu movie because I need subtitles. So this dude pushes me. And I just remember being scared. I wanted to cry. I wanted to run. And I was like, you know what, man? Not today. Not today. And he pushed me onto these trays that we would get our stuff on.
Mm-hmm.
So I grabbed one and I turned around and I hit him with it. And then it was so fast. Like I just hit him with it. And then he fell. And then I didn't know what to do. Like, do I act like Muhammad Ali, stand over him all crazy? Or like, what do I do? And I was just so scared. So I just walked away. And I got my breakfast. I sat down and I ate my breakfast.
He didn't retaliate?
Yeah, he didn't do nothing. And I was like, that's how it feels? Like, that's how this feels? But after that, I mean, I kind of just opened Pandora's box after that, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was bad.
It's, you're right. There's that moment when you realize, like, there's the freeze, fight, or flight thing.
Oh, yeah.
And most people will freeze. And that's not even a bad thing. It's just what your body will do.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get past that, you start learning, like, the people that are acting like that, they're doing that because they froze at one point.
Exactly.
And they're trying to avoid it. And the best way to avoid a fight when you're that young is to act like you're willing to get into one. And so you would get a lot of guys that would do that, which is probably why he didn't retaliate.
Well, the hilarious part is that whole thing you just described,
Mm-hmm.
that was me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And most of the fights, well, so, I mean, what high school did you go to?
I went to Cruces and Oñate.
Okay, so I went to Gadsden.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times I tell people, I remember when I got to college and I would tell people, yeah, I went to Gadsden. They're like, oh, are you okay?
Oh, you're like that?
Yeah.
Are you okay?
Are you okay? And I'm like, yeah, man, it's fine. You know, I thought, you know, that's the way high school was. But I realized most of the little skirmishes that I got into as a kid, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
But you can't, like, the second that guy pushes you, the other guy's going to push you. You know what I mean? And like, so exactly what you just said, I froze so much as a kid
Mm-hmm.
that when I got to high school, I wasn't about it. You know what I mean?
You'll be surprised how many fights you can like swerve from, like totally completely avoid just by standing up for yourself.
Oh yeah,
because you can see it in someone's eyes. I'm really good at it because I've been in a bunch of fights even before I started fighting, and you can see it in their eyes. And it's actually worse when you're drinking now, which we didn't do when we were younger.
Oh yeah,
but now when I'm drinking in a bar, I think the crazy drunk guy is you're going to beat him up.
Oh yeah, easy.
And then there's the sober person, right? Which like you can kind of feel them out. The guy in the middle that's had just enough to drink to where he's dangerous. He could still hurt you,
Mm-hmm.
but that part that makes him freeze is gone because
Yeah.
he's been drinking.
Oh, yeah.
That's the most dangerous guy. And I'll pick up on that quick because I know what that feels like.
Mhm.
If I'm too drunk, I'm smart enough to go in my head like, hey, it doesn't matter how good of a fighter you are. Like, you're going to lose this fight. Well.
Yeah.
And if I'm too sober, I'm like, and I meet the guy that's like medium drunk, I'll
Mhm.
spot him quick. I'm like, oh, this guy's strong enough and his inhibition's gone enough.
Oh,
that
yeah.
he will do something.
He's not pulling punches. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so it's like, not that I want to get into fights at bars, but it's a little bit more dangerous when you find that guy in between because there's benefits to alcohol. No one likes to admit that, but
exactly.
one of them is you stand up for yourself a little bit more, and you're also a little bit more sensitive, so you're more likely to get pissed off. Also, it depends on what you're drinking. We talked about that a little bit earlier.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, like I forgot where I was going with the story. Oh, being able to recognize that. I avoid a lot of fights now by being able to read the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And if I know they're in that medium part and it's like they didn't touch anyone, they're just acting a little crazy, like I'll let them have their ego moment. I'm
Yeah.
like, hey, you know what? I apologize, man. Like, I'm just here with my lady. Like, we're just trying to have a good
My
time.
bad.
Like, yeah. You know what I mean? And then there's my hardest one. There was one recently, not even recently, maybe like 6-7 months ago. I went to with a couple friends to not Buffalo Wild Wing. What's the other one? They closed it. Wing Daddies. Wing Daddies. And we had just got there. So we're like all stone cold sober. I think we had just ordered beers and there's 3 of us. And one of the guys with me still does MMA fighting to this day. And then the other guy was just a friend. But either way, like wrong table to run up on.
Yeah.
And this guy kind of walked over like crazy drunk. Like he literally walked into our table,
Oof.
bumped our drinks. And my first thought was to drop this guy, like the old school. And I'm like, all right, calm down. And he got aggressive with the one guy that's not a fighter. And I remember thinking like, well, now I got to say something because like he's not.
Yeah.
And so I told him, hey man, and it was like it's still during COVID. So I literally had just pushed him a little bit back. I said, hey, man, we're in a pandemic and we don't really know you.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys don't want to be my friends, bro? And he was like so drunk.
Oh
He didn't even
God.
introduce himself. And I looked over at my other buddy who does fighting, and he looked at me like, are we doing this right now, Will? Like,
Yeah.
I'm like, in my head, I was like, we just got here. I just want to hang out with my boys. Like, I don't want to.
I'm hungry.
And I literally, like, and I was so proud of myself because my first thought was like, just hit him. And he was messing with everyone else there. And I'm like, everyone will probably cheer. And then like, they'll pull him out and we'll be gone. And I was like, no, don't do that, because then I'm all like anxiety ridden. It ruins the day. And he kept getting aggressive, and I was so calm to him. I said, hey, man, he's like, well, my friends are on their way. I said, hey, man, well, have a seat right here. When they get here, I'll tell them you're here. You want to drink? You know what I mean? Like, just go hang out. And he ended up just falling into some other table, and the night went on just fine. But I remember reflecting on it and going like, wow, how far I've come. Because the old Will would have just got into a fight, and you can hurt people when they're that drunk. You know what I mean? So it's like, but yeah, it's those moments I look back and I'm like, oh my God, thank God I matured.
And that's the thing about it too. And it's funny, like, because you talk about maturity and such. Well, to touch back what you said about people being about it, not being about it. And the thing is that I understood as a kid that if this person thought I would bite off their nose just to win this fight, they wouldn't mess with me.
Sure.
And it worked. It worked. I'd get loud. I'd hit myself. You know, do what you got to do. You know what I mean? But like, but now, like you said, like now the lion, he's in here, but he's asleep. You know what I mean? And it takes a lot to wake. Yeah. The only two things that are gonna wake him up. Number one, you touch my lady. You know what I mean? Or you touch my kids.
Yeah.
Other than that, you can mess with me all night. You could probably even hit me. Like, let's be honest. You could probably hit me.
I won't.
And yeah. You know what I mean? Give it a shot. And but like, and I'll just be like, buddy.
Yeah.
Like, go sit down, please.
Yeah.
You know
it's totally not worth it.
And it hurts. Like even hitting people hurts now. You know what I mean? I don't enjoy being hit, but like I realize, hitting stuff hurts now. So I ain't trying to be in pain.
Yeah. It doesn't feel good at all.
At all.
And I said this on one of the earlier podcasts. Like, if I never get into a fight for the rest of my life, like, I'm completely fine with that.
I'm good.
I hate going out places trying to figure out who did I get into an argument with last week, trying to figure out like, is it even safe to have fun? Like, I'm done with all that, man.
And it's funny too, because like when I was younger, have you ever seen that movie Knock Around Guys?
It sounds familiar. Who's in it?
Vin Diesel. It's about a bunch of
weirdos. He had hair.
He did have a little bit of hair.
Like a fade or something.
Yeah. Well, and there's a scene in there where like they're in this bar, right? And then he gives this guy this speech, and he's like 500, and the guy's like 500 what? And he's like 500 fights to your like official tough guy. You know what I mean? And he gives him this whole tough guy speech. And at one point in my life, like I was like, that's what I want to be like. I want to be tough like that. And then I got older, and probably had kids. I think kids made me a little soft.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, you know what, man? I don't want to be like that Vin Diesel. I want to be like Fast and the Furious 12 or whatever they're on Vin Diesel. You know what I mean?
I love my family.
You know what I mean? Exactly. You know what I mean? It's just whatever.
Movies play a big role in who we are as human beings, man. And I know we're talking about the aggressive ones, but even thinking back, think about how those Disney princesses affected the women in our era.
Oh my God.
And it's everything. All the movies, Power Rangers, like, and some of them are good. I'm not saying they're all bad, but like we build, especially guys like me and you that didn't have the best upbringing, we build a lot of our character based off movies and like the things we know nothing about, but is in a movie. Like I've never been in the Air Force. So like if I watch Top Gun, I'm gonna be like, oh, it's just like that. And you talk to an Air Force dude, they're like, it's not like that at all.
Nah, dude, I sat there and I watched the screen for 6 hours a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But to me, it's like, I'm astonished at how much personality and ideas we get just off movies and shows.
Well, actually, it's funny you say that because as a kid, like all my how do you say it? My kind of the way what I believed, what I thought was good when I got my ideas of good and bad. You know what I mean? My morals came from comic book. Everything I learned in morality as a kid, or that I remember learning in morality as a kid, was either Batman or Superman.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They taught me everything. And then I'll just get into it. So Troy Aikman. Love the guy.
Didn't you just see him recently?
Bro, yes. That's what I wanted to get to.
Tell the story.
Because so all the way back when I was a kid, I think I'm older than you. I'm 35. How old are you?
32.
32, okay. So Troy Aikman, Cowboys, 1989, right? Well, somewhere in there, I was a young kid, and I saw the press conference when he went from Oklahoma to UCLA. And I thought he was Superman. because he had a little curl and he was a big, strong guy.
Yeah.
So I thought Troy Aikman was Superman for.
He does kind of have like a superhero
look.
look.
Yeah, good vibe. Yeah, he got a good vibe. So when he went to the Cowboys, my family was already Cowboys fans, so it was an easy transition.
Yeah.
And then I would see like all the commercials, Troy being this great dude and Troy being a good guy, yelling at his teammates, being the field general. Mm-hmm. So to me, like, I was like, oh, that's Superman. So fast forward 30 years or whatever it is. The other day, what was it, Monday, I get a text from one of my best friend in life, Juan, and he sends me a picture of a schedule for Troy Aikman being in El Paso. So the last stop was Union Draft House in Sunland Park. So my fiance and she was like, we're going. Like, I don't care. We're going. And truth be told, I wasn't feeling the best. Mm-hmm. But I was like, you know what, man? It's Troy freaking Aikman. Like, I'm going. Yeah. Even if I could just see him. So we get there and it's packed. And my fiance is like, well, you're good at making friends. Go make friends. And I'm like, all right, it sounds good. So I'm looking around, like, you kind of scope it out, like, who's my man? And then I found him. And it was this couple, so I just walked up. I was like, hey, man, like, no disrespect. Can me and my fiance just drink our beers right here so when Troy comes, you can see him? They were the coolest people ever. They're like, yeah, go ahead, stand here. But by the time, we showed up like 3 hours early.
Oh, you walked up to them in line.
Oh, no. They were, so at that Union Draft, there's the bar. There's like a standing area with like standing tables. Mm-hmm. And then there's the sitting area.
I get what you're saying. Yeah. They were at the bar.
They were right behind the bar at the standing tables. So I was like, I'm sure he's going to the bar. So I just want to be in the standing tables so I could just see him. I just want to see him. And then I had a white Cowboys hat in the hopes that, I could probably get a signature or something.
Yeah.
Or just, get security to escort me out after I go dry hump his leg. However
Swipe
that
his sweat on your white hat. See? That's clearly where his sweat is.
Exactly. Right, I got it on video. But like, so by the end of the day though, me and my fiance had enough people to where we had like a little shelter. Mm-hmm. And like it was like a little U-shaped of us, so every time somebody had to pee or something, we'd swipe out something like that, so somebody would take the spot.
Keep the spot, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And we had these dudes being aggressive, and they were trying to push us. And then my fiance is the most like, she doesn't like confrontation. She's not really like if like 9 times out of 10, she's like turn the other cheek. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So she's real pacifist. She keeps me balanced. But she looks at me and she goes, be aggressive. And I was just like,
she wanted this moment for you.
I was just like, you know what, man? She's never told me that. In the almost 4 years that we've been together, she always says, calm down. She's never said, be aggressive. And I was just like, a switch just went off in my head because it was no longer for me. Yeah. You know what I mean? It was for us. And I needed this autograph for us. Up. Exactly. There's this guy behind me and I'm just like, bam. I just stand there and I just push him back. And his friend's like, did that guy push you? He's like, yeah. And the whole time in my head, I'm like, oh, crap. I just got his kicked out.
I'm in too deep.
Yeah. And then the guy was like, what do you want me to do about it? And they didn't do anything. So I was like, cool. And then so Troy comes out. I mean, everybody's going crazy.
Yeah.
And there's this older couple in front of us. And I tell them, I was like, hey, I'm going to be leaning on your chair this whole time. Like until he comes around. And the old man that was there, he was like, that's okay, man. Like just keep them off of our backs. And I'm like, that's cool. And so we're there. Troy Aikman comes down. The first thing he does is start handing out beers. And I'm like, if Troy Aikman can hand me a beer, it's gonna happen. So I tell the older couple in front of us, I'm like, hey, I'm standing on your chairs. I'm sorry. This is just happening. So I stand on these chairs. There's just a crowd of people and my hand just peeks through. And then all of a sudden a beer touches my hand and I'm just like, I got one. And then I thought that was going to be the high point of the day. But then he goes back to the beginning of the bar and he whips out a silver marker and a black marker. So you can sign like blue stuff and then sign white stuff. Mm-hmm. And he starts signing things. And I was like, no, I got to get this signature. But while that's going on, these guys are pushing that poor old lady's chair and hurting her legs. So she tells her husband, I was like, hold on, I got you. So I grab the bottom of her chair and I pull it back into this guy's legs. And she's like, thank you. She's like, what do you want to have signed? I was like, well, I want to have my hat signed. And she's like, okay, we'll give it to him. So I give it to her husband. He gets my hat and you're like, Troy, and he puts it like
right in front of him.
Boom, right there. And I'm just like, oh my God. And then Troy grabs it, he signs it, and he's handing it back. I'm like, thank you, Troy. Thank you. And that right there, like, honestly, man, I'm still on cloud 9.
That's like, pretty cool story,
that was 3 days. Oh, man, I love that guy.
Think about all the things that had to go right for you in that story.
Oh, man, you have no idea.
And you could start with your wife, right?
Oh, yeah.
Because she's the one who pushed you to go.
Mm-hmm.
She's the one who pushed you to stand up for yourself. That old couple the people you ran into that held the spot where you guys use the restroom. Like that's crazy.
If I would have looked outside, it would have been Venus, Mercury, all the planets in a row. Yeah. Like just waiting for it. And I was like,
this is real right now.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And bro, like we'd been drinking for 3 hours, but that second I saw Troy Aikman, I was stone cold sober, man. I was 5 years old again.
Oh man.
It was amazing.
It's crazy how like when you go to that place, regardless of what it is, and people always make fun of sports fans for that reason, but I think that's one of the best parts of being a sports fan is you get so emotionally invested in the team and then every now and then a player. And it's just like not a lot of people, girls will make fun of it. I'm glad that you got someone that didn't. But I feel like my wife would have been the same way, by the way. Like same exact, like if it was someone that I idolized. What a cool story, man.
But women will be like that, but then they'll go watch 10 hours of the Kardashians
and get mad when you're like, I don't get it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, I watch it too.
I watch it with my girl, and I don't like it. I always tell her like, if I wasn't with you, I wouldn't watch it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to sit around and like bitch about the show the whole time. So I get into it a little bit with her.
I'm there.
But it's like if she's gone for like 2 weeks, which she never has been, I just wouldn't watch it at all.
You know, I wouldn't watch it because I wouldn't want to watch it without her.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Damn,
that's where I'm at.
Easy.
You know what I mean? My bad, man. My bad.
We get it, man.
You know what I mean? It's just is what it is. You know what I mean? Finding niches.
She watches The Bachelorette and The Bachelor ones too. Same thing. Like if it's something she's into, I won't watch it. But she recently started getting into some stuff that I like. And so because I'm like a Star Wars nerd. And so I got, whoa, what's on there? Let's see it.
Galactic Empire.
Oh, Jesus. I love it. I got her into Kenobi.
Oh.
And then to where she's like, don't watch it without me. And so now we're starting to rewatch the old movies. And she's already on episode 3. But she's just like, she'll ask questions now. And I think she hasn't said this yet, but I can see in her eyes, she's trying to figure out, like, am I annoying you? I'm like, no. Like, I love that you're asking.
Ask them
like,
all.
Yes. So ladies that are listening, like, ask, get into it. We love
all
that.
the time.
Or if she walks up and like, we watch the Titans game now because I'm a huge Titans fan. And she'll like get into it. And she even told me the other day, she's like, I'm excited for football season. I'm like, get out of here.
Great.
And so it's like, but that's like when you reach a certain level in your relationship.
Oh yeah.
And so now I don't mind watching the vampire movies or whatever she's into. Like she likes Gatsby a lot, like stuff that to me is super cheesy. I'll just get into it.
I grew up with my mother and my 2 sisters. So, I mean, vampire movies, if we're talking about Twilight, I was there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All that good stuff. You know what I mean? And kind of indoctrinating the wife into stuff like, so when we first met, she thought cartoons were stupid. And like that wasn't her thing. Now she walks around in a Dragon Ball Z shirts. You know what I mean? She loves Squirtle. You know what I mean? That's just how things work out. You know what I mean? Thankfully, she is a football fan. So but she's a Rams fan. And the first football game we saw together was the Cowboys versus Rams. They annihilated us. And she just sat there like, I'm just going to be humble. I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to be humble. But it's gotten to the point of where, and she'll never take credit for this. She'll probably get mad because I'm saying it, but I'm going to say it anyways. My youngest, I have 2 sons, Dante and Odin, 11 and 9. My youngest loves football, and he's a Rams fan. And she'll say it's not because of her, but what happened was when he'd play his little video games, he'd be like, what team should I choose? And she's like, well, just pick the Rams. And so he loves Aaron Donald.
Really?
Like, I think Aaron Donald is his Troy Aikman. You know what I mean? So if I could ever arrange, we're gonna go to SoFi Stadium one day just for him.
That'd be so bad.
You know what I mean? Not, for her too, I guess, but for mostly Odin.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's his. So every argument, he'll be like, "Daddy, who's the best quarterback in the league?" And I'll be like, I'll try to go through like a list of what I think, and he's like, Aaron Donald could sack him. I'm like, that's not even the question you asked me, kid. Like, what are we talking about right now?
But I appreciate where you're coming from.
Exactly. But he's so into it though. It trips me out, man.
When you're young like that's when these fan bases start.
Oh yeah.
And you're right. I remember football. I didn't get into till later on in life. But growing up, I was because everyone always my 2 favorite teams are for basketball. I like the Kings.
Okay.
And then for football, I like the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
And so everyone's like, they're not even close to here. Like, what's your issue there? Or how did you become a fan? Titans is easy. They used to be the Oilers, and they were in Houston.
Yeah.
And they would play the Texas game. So it was Cowboys and the Oilers. They'd play all the time, and everyone liked the Cowboys. So I'm like, boom, Oilers.
Contrary or
yeah.
what?
And then sure. Yeah. And they weren't as good. The Cowboys were dominating. And so I'm like, all right, I'll go with that one. And then they get bought out by Tennessee. They become the Titans, and I just stuck with them. So I liked them my whole life. So that one's easy. But the Kings, I didn't watch basketball a lot, but I liked Mike Bibby. I don't know if you remember Mike Bibby.
Yeah.
He played for U of A,
Mm-hmm.
and so they would play those games on the TV. I don't know if no one has cable anymore. Some people do, but they would have this channel where they would just play the Aggies here.
Okay.
And then they would play the U of A games. And I remember thinking like, and a lot of the people I hung out with were UNC fans. They were Duke fans. They were Lakers fans for the NBA. Spurs were killing at the time, and then the Bulls earlier than those, but they were still popular even after Jordan left. And I remember watching Michael Jordan, right? And you get Lakers. Who do they have? Or Kobe back then. All these guys just had like major players, right? And then, but I remember watching this 6'1" like white dude just draining threes over.
You didn't know what light skin was back then.
No, well, yeah. To me, he was white. Yeah. I found out he was mixed. But to me as a kid, I'm like, he telling me, and he was like, everyone was scared of him, and he was crossing dudes over. And when he went in the paint, he wasn't strong enough, but he would hit that floater or like just some finesse move. And I was like, man,
amazing.
I love U of A. And so I became a U of A fan. And then even though I never watched the NBA, once he got drafted and then went to the Kings, I'm like, all right. And I watched him most of his career there. Even though he left towards the end, I've always been a Kings fan since.
I'm like the quintessential like 90s kid. So I'm a Cowboys fan, I'm a Bulls fan, and then I'm a Braves fan. You know what I mean? Because that's what was on TV at the time.
I don't watch too much baseball, so I don't. It was at the time was at the Braves
at
stadium.
the time, yeah. And honestly, ever since then, I fell off of baseball because I honestly just don't respect it much.
I heard it's a much funner sport to go to.
Oh no, yeah, I've heard that too. And I'm sure trying to hit a ball going 100 miles an hour with the stick is probably pretty hard.
Yeah,
but you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not to take away from how impressive it is. Like soccer is super impressive. They're way more athletic than most.
I don't want to watch it all the time. Yeah, I don't want to watch it all the time. But so I mean the Bulls, the Cowboys, but then I have my son, and it's kind of funny how it works because so he's a Rams fan. They won Super Bowl, and he suckered me into buying him a jersey because he bet me like week 8 of the season. And he was like, if the Rams win the Super Bowl, will you buy me an Aaron Donald Super Bowl jersey? I'm like, yeah, kid, they suck. You ain't gonna get nothing.
He got you in early.
Oh my God.
What was the over under on that bet?
A minute. So like a minute 15 left in the Super Bowl. This little bastard looks at me and he goes, Daddy, I guess I'm gonna get my jersey, huh? And I'm just like, yeah, I guess you are.
I'm gonna guess it was an Aaron Donald jersey.
Oh well, so when he gets back from the summer, I'm gonna like, let's see what size you are.
Oh, you haven't got it yet.
Yeah, we'll go fit you. Yeah,
you got to get him the Donald jersey.
He loves Steph Curry. Like he loves Steph Curry, and maybe he's a little indoctrinated because all the shoes we get him are Steph Curry shoes.
Yeah.
So lo and behold, I mean, halfway through the season, they weren't supposed to do anything, and then they win the championship. So I looked at him. I'm like, Odin, enjoy it, bro. Because the last time my football team and my basketball team both won championships the same year, I was your age. Hasn't happened since.
Yeah, I can't even relate to that because both my teams, the Kings, here's how I always tell people, because some people don't even know the Kings are in the NBA. That's how bad they've been. And the Titans have been good recently, by the way, but I went through a phase where they were terrible. They played the Rams in the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And then they were downhill from there. The Rams won and they went down and they recently got good.
Yeah.
Hey, how dare you do that? Don't tell your son about that moment.
Oh, he tells me about it. Yeah.
But the Kings are so bad. And so people that don't know basketball or whoever I'm talking to about it, I'm going to go, this is the best way I describe the Kings to you guys. Their playoff drought is the longest playoff drought in the NBA right now. Their playoff drought is old enough to drive. Dang. It's a 17-year playoff drought. If that was a human being, they could start driving. That's how bad they've been.
And not to pile on, but like more than half the teams in the NBA get in the playoffs.
Yes, and even more now that there's a play-in game.
Oh yeah,
and they still haven't been. They're never the worst team. They're always, which I prefer them to be the bad team and still get a good pick.
Oh yeah,
they're always not bad enough to get good picks, but not good enough to make the playoffs.
Oh yeah,
and they've done some terrible moves, and oh man, so that's what it's like. Remind your son of that. Be like, at least you're not a Kings fan.
Exactly.
But one day when they're good, I hope people remember that I wasn't a bandwagon.
So hope you're still alive. But I mean, that's the way it was with the Bulls, though. I mean, we had outside of Jordan, the Bulls.
They had a moment when they had Derrick Rose.
That's what I was gonna say because so they were ugly, but I had every pair of Derrick Rose shoes.
I don't even remember Derrick Rose shoes.
Oh man,
he still gets paid to Adidas from Adidas to this day.
He's hustling.
I saw something the other day is if he doesn't go to the Hall of Fame, he'll be the only MVP ever to not make the Hall of Fame.
And that year he was a monster.
Yeah, he was so good.
He was so good. Those knees couldn't hold him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like That was the saddest part about it all.
John Morant reminds me of him.
A lot.
With a little bit of a better shot than Rose had at the beginning.
Oh, yeah.
And Rose clearly worked on it, and he can shoot a lot better now. But and so I love John Morant, but I remember I'm like, he's got to win soon because his knees aren't going to like last. Like, I'm not trying to jinx him.
Oh no. I never wish that on anybody.
But he reminds me a lot of him. The way he floats, the way they're similar heights.
So since we're here, LeBron or Jordan?
All time? Yeah. What's your question?
Greater player. Don't give me all time statistics. Just
I know that if you ask anyone younger than me, they're going to disagree, but I would still go with Jordan.
Yeah.
And that's even before the documentary, which more people agree now. I always ask people, what's your question? Because it depends on what you value as greatest player. And if it's the guy that gets the most stats, sure. Like LeBron, he's at the end of his career, he'll be top 5 in almost everything. Yeah. And so I'm like, clearly he's great, but I value and respect the character of him. And and the way he wanted to win, and Kobe had that. I would put Kobe above LeBron as well.
Oh, we're gonna make out. That's how this is going.
But a lot of people would disagree with that. But I would, because I value that, like the way he took over those teams, and even in the earlier when he had Shaq. Everyone always says he only won because he had Shaq, which clearly is dumb because he won without Shaq. And Shaq also won without him. But he was older and he had D Wade. So no one ever makes that argument.
Exactly.
But I won't get too much into Kobe, but no, I would go Jordan all day because he played 13 years with the Bulls, and I think he left and then came back for like 2 years with the Wizards, right? And that's a total of 15 years. And like he just had this period. He had to learn how to win, and then once he won, he just couldn't stop winning. And then he took some time off for baseball, came back, won more, took some time off, came back with the Wizards, and still was pretty incredible. He didn't win anything there. I think that was more of a team thing.
At 40 years old.
Oh my God. He was dropping like 60-point games at 40-some years old. But I'll always respect his mentality, the way he wanted to win. And I'm glad they did that documentary.
Oh, me too.
Because I think younger kids will get a chance to see that.
But people weren't ready for that. People weren't ready for that hardcoreness that Jordan had. Because that's a very old school mentality.
Yeah.
And I think the reason I love football so much isn't because it's like machismo or like testosterone driven. It's just like a real old school feeling. You know what I mean? You eat what you kill, like get out there. Like it's put your foot on their throat and keep going, as opposed to like buddiness of the way the NBA has become now. Yeah. You know what I mean?
I respect it. You're right. And then when we're old, their kids will feel differently. And you know what I mean? Our kids will feel differently. And then our kids will be like, yeah, they're wrong. LeBron's clearly the greatest. And then there'll be some new guy that's clearly better than LeBron. You know what I mean? And so it will change, and I respect that. But yeah, if you're asking me personally, I don't get mad at anyone that puts LeBron up there. I think you can make really good arguments for it. So it's not what it is. What I do hate is when people go like, "You're out." They fight so hard. I'm like, dude, it's not out of their mind. I disagree. Yeah, but like he's making good points. You know what I mean?
So the part that I always bring up is the Barry Sanders, Emmitt Smith.
You're gonna know that better than me.
Well, because I'm a Cowboys fan. I love Emmitt Smith, and Emmitt Smith is the all-time leading rusher. Don't get me wrong. Statistically, supposed best rusher of all time. But for the period of time that Barry Sanders played, he was amazing. Like the eye test just showed this guy is amazing. So for me, like LeBron James, statistically, best career. I would take LeBron's career over Jordan's just because of the statistics of it all. But greatest of all time, I go Jordan just because. Yeah. Thankfully, I got to see it.
You know that guy would have cut an arm off to win.
Oh, man.
And you could see it in the way he plays. Yeah. I love that part in the documentary when they tell him, like, if I have 10 cups of medicine, one of them has poison in, or like, well, I forgot how they worded it. They're like, one of them will cure it, or 9 of them will cure it, but one of them has poison in it. Do you drink it? Well, it depends on how bad the headache is. Exactly. Or something like that. Like, I forgot the metaphor, but when he said that, he's clearly like, well, if I feel, it was when he broke his foot, remember? Yeah. And he's like, I want to play. And like, it could end your career. He's like, I don't give a shit.
Just put me in there.
I just respect that. I respect the same thing in fighters. I also respect the longevity portion, but me personally, I tend to connect more with the person that's like willing to lose their mind for something.
Oh yeah. All day. And the thing about it too is like, and it's the hardest thing, kind of like we were talking earlier about like kind of teaching your kids stuff. Like I got to teach my kids like the L's. You know what I mean? You're going to take L's, but it's like, it's and it's the stupidest thing because some of the best sayings in my head come from the situation from Jersey Shore. Okay. You know what I mean? The comeback's always greater than the setback. And
is
then
that what he said?
Yeah. And then we didn't
You might be the only person I know that quotes the situation.
Yeah. And I got one more.
All right,
we didn't come this far just to come this far. You know what I mean? It's so simple, so stupid, but it makes sense. You know what I mean? Just think about it.
You know what I keep thinking of? I just think of Talladega.
Oh, yeah.
Will Ferrell's like, I'm way too drunk to taste this chicken.
Yep.
And he's just like, what?
What are you talking about? But yeah, I mean, you got it. Because like clearly Jordan took a lot of L's.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And anybody great has. But it's like, it's just like, and I'm sure fighting. I've never been in competitive fighting before. I've been in fights.
Yeah.
And you win some, you lose some. You just happy you walk away.
It's very humbling. Because even I've lost many fights, even in training. And it's like, it's very humbling. If you hang out with a group of dudes, specifically jiu-jitsu guys, they're really great at this. There's a little bit more arrogance in kickboxing and boxing. But the jiu-jitsu guys, like, the more you lose, like, you're so humbled and you're so driven to beat that person. And then when you finally get it, the respect is, no one gets sour. Like, I got you 10 times, bro. No, when you get that guy finally, he's like, dude, my guy, what a move.
Yeah.
Like, and you learn that, like, and that's really where I started seeing that. I remember before it goes out of my head, learning how to take L's. I'm glad you brought that up because growing up the way I grew up, I was very, that's how I got so funny, I think, is because I would always try to think of a comeback because I remember that feeling of like getting made fun of and just having nothing and just going like, man, I know like I bring some value this guy doesn't.
Yeah.
But he's killing me right now with these jokes. Like I'm getting made fun of because I had long hair, which is crazy to think because I'm bald.
You know,
I had hair that went to my shoulders and it got so long and it's because my parents couldn't afford haircuts. It would hit my shoulders and curl at the ends and like just naturally. So I literally looked like
Lord Farquaad.
Yeah, pretty much. It was so bad. My first day in the FYU shelter here in town.
Yeah.
I was pre-pubescent. I think I was 12 years old. And so they were like, "Hey, little girl, do you want some food?" And,
God.
I didn't know I was it was an adult.
Yeah.
And my voice was all low. So I was like, yeah, I'll take some food.
Yeah.
And I wasn't brave enough to tell anyone for like a whole week. They thought like I was a little girl.
Dang.
Yeah. I told a lot of people that story, but I just like went with it. And then, and I'll let you talk in a second.
Oh no, go ahead.
Because it's going to leave my head.
Yeah, go.
And then, so that happened for a while. And I remember thinking I would sit down, like plotting almost like, I'm like, all right, someone like, I got to have something to say when someone makes fun of me.
Coming with rhymes, huh?
And my palms are sweaty. Mom spaghetti. You worked at this plant so long. You're a plant.
Oh, I forgot that part.
No, I started thinking about that. But here's one of the moments when I realized I gotta check myself a little bit because I got a haircut finally. The shelter caught on to that. They gave me a haircut, and I went to school, and there was this girl that I thought was really cute, and this must have been like 7th grade, and I'd always liked her, and no one knew who I was. And I got a haircut, and I was the weird, smelly kid with long hair that was, you know what I mean? And I came to school one day looking like a normal kid. And the girl tells me, "Oh my God, did you get a haircut?" And then my stupid brain that doesn't know how to handle stuff, like I didn't know what to go. I didn't know what to say. So I literally looked at this girl that I had a crush on, and I was like, "No, I didn't get a haircut. It all just like fell out." Like, and then like looking at her like you're an idiot. And she was so heartbroken. She's like, "I was just trying to be nice. Like, you're an asshole." And I remember thinking like, "God, Will, you're so stupid." Like, and then all the other girls were like, "He's an asshole." And all the other guys were like, "Fuck that guy." And I'm like, dude, I just ruined everything in this one moment, you know? And I remember thinking like, all right, I need to have something to say, but I also need to own this and understand that not just because people made fun of my hair for years doesn't mean that everyone's doing it. And so, oh God, it was such a journey just to be able to go like, yeah, I did get a haircut. Oh, it looks nice. Oh, thank you. Like, how you been?
Oh, you
like, learning that is difficult. Yeah. I struggle to this day with that.
Taking compliments is harder than taking insults.
That's very true.
You know what I mean?
Very true.
Because like taking a compliment, there's nowhere to go. You have to accept that. But the problem is, and not to get too deep with it, sometimes
get deep.
You're just not ready to. You know what I mean? Because somebody
to accept a compliment?
Yeah, because somebody compliments you and your insecurity keeps you from accepting that compliment.
Sure. I think I'm better now, but I'm way better now. For sure terrible younger.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Because it's a comfort thing. When you're, and I'm sure we can relate on this, when you're used to chaos, that little glimmer of light, it hurts.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Or it definitely is confusing.
Oh yeah.
And you're not used to it.
And you're just like, but I do have a question. Speaking of making fun of your hair, what color was it? Is it ginger like your beard?
No. So actually, I was the lightest blonde you've ever seen, and it got darker. So I can show you pictures. So when I was a kid, it was like M&M blonde, like when he bleached it, and it was natural. I never bleached it. And then when I got older, it got darker, like a dark brown almost. But and no one in my family has red hair.
Really?
But my dad, my biological father, who I met for the first time when I turned 18, had red in his beard as well. So I don't know if it's an Irish thing or if it was passed down through generations. Yeah, I have red in my beard, but yeah, when I had hair, it wasn't red at all.
I just assumed it was.
Most people do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I know you didn't ask, but the carpet does not match the drapes.
I was about to ask that.
Yeah,
actually.
you can ask, bro. Because that's usually what people ask next. No, I have no idea. There's no red there either.
No fire crash action here?
No, just for whatever reason. And maybe some smart geneticist can explain this better than I could. Yeah, just in my beard, I have red.
You're like Neapolitan ice cream.
Dude, I love that.
That's
Dude, I can take a compliment.
You see? You see?
We're growing. Yes. Real growth. Yes. No, yeah. But yeah, I'm glad that we touched on that because I think it's an important thing to learn how to accept a compliment, but also like to take something else. Like when I do dumb stuff and people make fun of me, like I learned from my loins. I learned to join the joke, and it's hilarious. And a big part of that, or what really was a trigger for me, was Remember the Titans. Do you remember that? Mm-hmm. There's a scene in the movie with Sunshine.
Yeah. I know where you're going.
And they're trying to ask Sunshine if he's gay. Do you remember that? And they're like, come on, man. I won't care. Like, I just need to know. And he was just smiling. Yeah, I mean, whatever you think, man. Uh-huh. Yeah. And he ends up kissing him. Do you remember? And he's like, what the hell, man? And then he's just like, whatever. Like, you think I'm gay? I'm like, whatever. And then, like, I remember watching that and going like, oh, he was the new guy getting clowned for something. And he's like, all right, if I own this, even if it's not true, you can't make fun of me for it. And I remember watching it. I'm like, what a great way to perceive life. So when people make fun of me, I just go with it because I'm super white. They're like, oh, you're white. And when I was young, like growing up in a predominantly Hispanic city, like I'd be like, oh, does that mean I suck? Like, I don't know what that means. But now I just go with it. And I'll tell people like, well, see, my mom is very white and then my dad is invisible. Yeah. And that's also a missing dad joke.
Yeah. I
double
got
entendre.
I got you.
Yeah. And then people laugh and we move on and like, it's cool. You just embrace it.
I used to ask people how far the store was for milk because my dad went and never came back.
That's always like a thought. Yeah. As soon as he gets that pack of cigarettes,
he's gone
any day now.
But I thought the other good part from that movie that comes up is same kind of. I think it was probably the same scene or around about the same scene in the locker room where they're making mama jokes. And so
I don't remember that part. So like, I want to rewatch it now.
So like the black kids
break
are
it
like,
down.
The black kids are like, oh, your mama's so fat, and so they tell Bertier, well, Bertier's mama's so fat, you know what I mean? Bertier gets mad, and he's a white guy. He gets mad because he's like, you talk about my mama, and they're like, no, give him a second, and then he catches on like it's just like it's banter. Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's like locker room talk.
Exactly. Yeah. So like going along with. Not only being able to be the butt of the joke, you got to be able to read the room.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And kind of what you were saying about, coming up with your rhymes, like you got to know when to unload that gun. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because a lot of times
you can lose your crush.
Oh, real fast. She still thinks you're an asshole, by the way.
I hope she's doing well.
Yeah, she's like, hey, man.
My wife's going to hear this. Like, why were you talking about her?
Who the hell is that?
Where is she? I want to find her
She's
on
already
Facebook.
on Facebook looking at her. She's like, let's see, a little girl who likes blonde hair. Let me see.
She would. I lucked out that we'll have full-blown conversations about our exes in front of people because we both learned to joke about it a lot. But yeah, it's... and I now realize I've told multiple stories on these podcasts about me being embarrassing in front of women. Yeah. I had some bad moments, man, like with girls growing up. I remember the first time I saw someone dating someone and it wasn't just like girls are ooey, but they're secretly cute.
Yeah. Oh,
like,
yeah.
I think it was like in 7th grade, like a girl dated a guy and everyone's like, whoa, like they're holding hands in the hallway.
Look at these guys.
By 8th grade, everyone was doing it. And so I was just so awkward that I'm like, I got to figure this out. I remember watching The Notebook when it came out.
Oh, I love that movie.
And it's a great movie.
Oh, man.
And I know it's made fun of a lot, but when you're that young and your hormones are there and you're really talking about movies, we talked about that earlier.
Yeah.
We went and saw it in theaters with a foster family I was with. And we didn't get to finish it because we had a meeting for TFC meeting. And so they're like, we got to go. And it was right at the end where we're going to figure out if Allie comes back or not. Because she left to go meet Lonnie or whatever in the hotel.
I'm just surprised they filled you full of that estrogen before you went to a TFC meeting, man.
Dude, that's fucked up.
That is, man. They set you up for that.
Because then I looked all depressed.
Yeah, they're like, oh, damn, this gets sad. It's like, no, he just wants to know where Allie's going.
Is it because your family abandoned you? No, it's because I don't know if Allie's going to end up with Noah.
Yeah. I just want to know what she wants.
I was so into the movie that I literally remember being depressed. Like that's how crazy it was when I didn't know how it ended, and I'm like, why would she do that? Like he clearly loves her. Like I was just so emotional, and for a week I would just sit there at night and I'm like, oh, I hope I never have to go through this. And then they took us back to watch it again because I'm like, I can't live like this.
I'm dying.
I'm dying
right now.
So we went back, rewatched it. I finally got to see the end, and which makes it a little bit better. But I was still like, are we all gonna like fall in love and then lose our memories? Like when you're that young, you're very impressionable. So and then I took that into all my relationships. I'm like, these girls are gonna hurt me. I know it.
Eventually.
I know it. Yeah, some handsome man's gonna come along in a cast,
and then I'm done.
He's gonna have a cool suit on eventually. He's gonna be a really good dancer. Come with way more money, and I'll be done.
Yep.
Yeah,
all day. And the thing is too is like as you get older and you have no training for like how to deal with like relationship issues.
Yeah.
And so every like when I was younger and I'd get into a fight with like my spouse or whatever, I would just go back and all of a sudden I'm Noah. You know what I mean? Yelling at Ellie. You know what I mean? And then like you kind of just like you use that as like
it's like
the
a
guiding
cutesy, like we argue but I love you.
Yeah, exactly. Like it's just oh my God. Movies are so let me ask you this.
Sure.
Most because I have mine in my head. Movie. So I'll say mine first.
Sure.
So the movie that I think a lot of people would think that I like because I love Keanu Reeves.
Okay.
But my absolute favorite Keanu Reeves movie is A Walk in the Clouds.
I don't think I know what that is.
I love that movie. It's so like it's a love story. What is it
about? Give me the quick breakdown.
So Walk in the Clouds. Keanu Reeves is a World War II vet. Gets back home. Wife's cheating on him. He joins this. He's on a bus. This Mexican chick is pregnant. She has to go tell her Mexican father, who owns a vineyard, that she's pregnant. So he volunteers to be the daddy. And he was supposed to bounce after the first night, like as the asshole who left her there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And then they fall in love. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So very cliche. You can see it coming a mile away.
That's genuine though. I kind of want to watch it now.
Great movie. So my question to you was, what's that corny movie that you love that people wouldn't expect?
When I was younger? Oh, man. Well, The Notebook would be one, but I think that's a little bit cliche now. My favorite movies of all time. Those are, I think, I love Fight Club and Boondock Saints are my old school ones. I think that's not that weird. I'm trying to think of one that I would go back to a lot. Holes? Did you ever watch Holes?
Holes.
I love that movie, dude. Back when Shia LaBeouf was
still
normal.
Sane.
Yeah. I kind of like him insane too, though.
Hey, man, sometimes good art comes out of insanity. Sometimes I wish artists stayed hooked on drugs. They make good music.
Yeah, that's true.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and we know that.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's tons of famous rock stars that just jack themselves up.
What did Metallica make after Rehab? You know what I mean? Come on.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of one that would be weird. I can't think of one right now, but if one pops up, I think I'm also kind of a movie buff. Like I never considered myself that, but when I hang out with friends and I quote movies, I could tell you watch a lot too, though.
Oh, I love movies.
Because I throw out some quotes and you know where they're from. I have a buddy
movies.
that's like that too, and my wife's always like, "What are you guys even talking about?" I'm like, I can't even explain right now. But I realized that a majority of my childhood was like I lived through movies.
Yeah,
there was a family, dude. I'll send you a link to it if you haven't heard of this. They were locked. They were kidnapped by their own family, but they were locked in an apartment building, like on the 6th story of this big apartment building in a big city.
Okay.
And their parents never let them out of the house. So these kids they'd never been out of their house in their lives. They never left. They'd never been in school. They would cuff them to the beds. They would chain them up. They would force some kids to starve the other kids, like to build superiority. And I think there ends up being like 11 of them.
What?
It's a crazy story. And they break out. And the cops go back and find them there. And there's a news story where like it's their first time in the real world. And everything they know, they've never left this apartment ever. And that's crazy. And like I think the oldest one was like 14 or 15 years old. And she's never left this apartment building. And everything they know is based off movies. The parents let them watch movies. So like it just reminded me of that because we're talking about movies. I'll find out what it is and I can link in the description. I'll send it to you. But it is amazing. And these kids are the sweetest kids. And they're like, one of them would got a cell phone from their parents and they would stream Justin Bieber. So she was like in love with Justin Bieber, and she gets to meet Bieber. Bieber like joins them in the middle of this newscast or like a Zoom. But it's a crazy story. But their whole personality is built off these movies that are in there. And not that I'm comparing that to me, but I'm saying like I relate to that because I pick up a lot of stuff from movies.
Well, that's the thing too, because when I was younger, income tax time, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was Christmas.
Oof.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Christmas wasn't Christmas. I got an orange and a paper sack and some socks.
Yes, Christmas was in March.
But I knew Christmas was coming in March. You know what I mean? So that's when you gathered it up. So, my mom bought a big old TV, but like the old big screen TVs.
At the time, it was the
freaking huge ass. It's a
the
wall.
brick.
Yeah. Oh my god. But I mean, she said it straight out, like, hey, we're gonna have to be home a lot because we can't go anywhere. But at least we'll have a big old TV to watch. And you know what I mean? And that's what it was. We just watched movies. And that's just what was the entertainment. Football, movies.
Yeah.
And it was good. Oh, and hunting, I guess.
Yeah.
I never hunted, but
I've never hunted to this day.
No, me neither.
I want to.
I can cook it, but I don't know if I could kill it.
I think I would want to try. Like, I'm not saying I'm not that masculine.
Yeah.
Like, I want to hunt and kill and eat it. Like, I would go, and if I don't like it, I would just never go again.
Yeah, exactly.
I never had that figure in my life that wanted to do that.
But I kind of think too, like, I couldn't shoot a bunny. You know what I mean?
I think I could.
Could you?
Right when I said that, maybe.
Yeah,
not.
that was a little satanic.
No, but right when I said it, I'm like, I pictured it, and then I'm
I
like,
could probably kill a boar though. Boars are ugly.
So you'd kill ugly stuff?
Yeah, I could kill ugly things. I'll just imagine it.
You kill
else.
ugly things?
Yeah, I kill ugly things. I can't kill cute things. Like, to me, deer are kind of cute. Like, bucks are beautiful.
So you couldn't kill deer?
Shoot that. I don't know.
I think that's what
I've never been in that situation.
I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
I've just been so like, I'd go hunting. I never even thought about what I would hunt.
And then as when I was younger, I'm like, yeah, I could kill anything. You know what I mean? Because that was the thing back then. But now I'm just like, I got kids. I'm like, yo, does this deer have little deer kids? Like, am I taking? You know what I mean?
Emotionally
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm like, I can't take away the deer daddy. You know what I mean? Like,
well, back in the day, you would have had to have. So like,
yeah.
And even like the vegan community is very big on that. Like, if you're gonna eat meat, you have to hunt and kill it yourself.
I'm about that. Yeah, I support that 1,000%.
Yeah, I would go hunting, but you kind of sparked something in me. I now need to think about what I would hunt for. Because I thought I could kill a bunny like right up to when you said that. And then I realized like maybe I can't.
Especially if I
maybe if it was like a fucked up bunny, like a homeless bunny.
Oh, if it was an ugly bunny, yeah.
Like one of those ones with red eyes.
But would you eat that?
Are bunnies good to eat?
I mean, I think you could eat rabbits.
I think we got to stop saying bunnies.
Yeah. I moved the rabbit real quick after I heard you say it. But I think if I had a rabbit in my sights and that thing just looked at me, I'd be like, I'm sorry. You know what I mean? I don't know
what
if
it was like, and I know I used the word homeless and I shouldn't have said that.
Yeah.
What if it was a dirty rabbit and it had the red eyes?
We'll go with feral.
Feral.
Yeah.
Wolf
feral.
if it was a crazy rabbit.
Yeah, it was a crazy rabbit.
And what if you just watched it like kill something else?
If it was a crazy rabbit that emotional support couldn't help, yeah, I would do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What if it was attacking your home?
Oh, it's dead. Yeah. Don't come in the house. And well, that's the thing to me, like protection, like I'll you know what I mean? I have, home protection.
I'd like to think, me too.
Uh-huh.
And I'd like to think that I could. I went shooting for the first time a year ago.
Really?
And then went shooting a second time and then got a gun.
Yeah.
But I've only shot at ranges. Again, I've never hunted or anything like that. I'd like to think I could. At first when people ask me, I say things like that. And maybe it's the macho protective person in me. Like, if anyone touches my family, I'll kill them or I'll beat them up. And people say that all the time. But there's a huge history of people not doing that.
Oh, yeah.
And so I always like to be honest with myself. So I think, could I? I'd like to think I could if it came down to it, but I don't know. I'd like to think that if someone broke into my house and I saw, not that I would know, let's say this is a perfect scenario, and I had my gun and I saw they didn't, I think I'd put the gun down and just fight them. Like, I really would. Like, I'd like to think, and then when I talk to people about that are like gun people, they're like, that's dumb. They could still kill you. You have a gun. Why would you put it down your leverage? And I'm like, I don't know. Maybe I would. I'd like to think that I could, but I sometimes wonder, like, I don't know if I can shoot a person.
Well, to be clear, I wouldn't try to do a kill shot. I would try to hit him in the leg if I could.
That's another thing gun people will tell you not to do. Because I would, growing up, or like police brutality, I'm like, why don't you just shoot him in the leg? Apparently that's a terrible, like that's not the thing to do. And I wish I had someone way more gun enthusiast to break this down. I know there's a good reason that I'm not thinking of right now. But it's like your life or theirs. They say you shouldn't do that. So I don't know. Maybe I would just kind of bitch out and shoot at the leg or something.
Oh God. Yeah.
But I just don't know. I don't know what I would do.
I'm just going to hope I'm never in that situation.
Me too.
Yeah.
I think that's the golden rule.
I'm going to do that one. I'm going to do that one.
Everyone listening is like, where's this house? I'm going to break it.
Yeah.
I know that bitch won't shoot me.
Let's test this fool right now. I own nothing.
I have cameras, an alarm system. I know how to fight. And if all those things fail, I also have a gun. So don't break it.
Let's go to this fight thing.
Sure.
How long have you, how would you say it? Like formally trained?
Not a lot. So, I did boxing when I was young. I did Taekwondo after that, whenever me and my brother were in a foster home. So I trained for that for like 2 years. And then I had a roommate in high school that was a Golden Glove boxer from Connecticut. His name was John Maddox. This guy went on to go to West Point Military Academy. He beat a lot of those guys as I think a sophomore. He won the whole thing. Damn. And then won it again as a junior. And I don't know how his senior year went. This guy's a really good boxer, and I was a really good basketball player. And I had a history of boxing and then Taekwondo, and we made a deal. He was like, I'll teach you how to box if you help me play basketball. It turns out I was way more into boxing than he was in the basketball. So we spent a lot of time doing that, and then he met Lloyd. He was one of my good friends, Billy Cologne, and they were all at a gym here for MMA, and he's like, we should go to this MMA gym, and then it kind of took off from there.
Nice.
I trained probably like 3 months before my first fight. But I did have prior training to that. They call it sandbagging, by the way, when someone comes into a new sport and pretends they, like, if someone were to, like, let's say I was a black belt Taekwondo and then I go to like a kickboxing tournament and I enter that as a white belt. Yeah. They call it sandbagging.
Oh, yeah.
Like you're technically a white belt at that, but you have a tons of other training. Yeah. So they frown upon that, but it happens all the time. But yeah, so I did have, that's why I point out that I did have some. But then, yeah, I trained there, and then I had my first fight, and then left that gym, went to a place called Bone Crushers here in town, who's the brother of Marty. Marty is, I don't know if Bone Crushers still a thing. He ran Bone Crushers. I worked with James Martinez. He had a Martinez Inc. was the first place I went to. And then I trained out of there, had a few fights out of there. We stopped. We'd make under the table bets and stuff. You could pay amateurs at the time. Yeah. So we were getting money. That's mainly why I was fighting. And then they passed a law in New Mexico where you can't pay amateur fighters anymore because they don't give you health care. Yeah. And so you get like nobodies walking up like I'll fight for $400, and then their medical bills were thousands. Yeah. And they caught on to that quick. I liked it. I liked training way more than I liked fighting. I was nervous every single fight. I lost my first fight ever. I got beat up. I had a DQ win in one fight. Where I got beat up the whole time, but I still got the win because the guy shoved his thumb in my belly button. Oh, he had him on the ground mounted, and he was like, you can put your forearm on the face in amateur, but you can't like elbow when they're on the ground. So the ref was watching. He was swimming with his arms, and while he had one arm up here, other one right in the belly button. Dang. And oh my God, it hurt. It was bruised. It was bleeding. That's how they figured out that he had done it. The guy he knocked me out. And then I woke up and I realized what had happened. I showed the ref I was bleeding from my belly button, and they DQ'd the guy.
He assaulted your belly button.
He assaulted my belly button. Wow. So I don't recommend it.
I probably wouldn't.
I liked that fight. Like it's one of my favorite fights, even though there was never a point in that entire fight that I was winning. Yeah. But I still got the win for it. You know what I mean? But I learned a lot from that fight. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then I won a bunch after that and then just stopped. But I like the training way more. People always ask me like if I'd ever do it again. I wouldn't, not at this age, but I would definitely train again. Yeah. I love the camaraderie. It's some of the nicest people you've ever met. Just the confidence. I think a lot more women should do it, even if they never get into a fight, just to feel what it's like to like be in control of where you stand and stuff. Does that answer your question?
Oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah. No, I like it. And now I'm just a huge fan of watching it, man.
I think that's what it takes too. Cause like, if like, for instance, jiu-jitsu, unless you understand what's going on, you like to watch it. You're like, oh, these two guys are just kind of rolling on the floor. But when you understand like mounting, you understand guards, you understand like what you're doing, then it becomes different. You know what I mean? Yeah. So
it's the same thing in baseball. I assume. Oh yeah. Like when you learn the different pitches, like you start getting more into it. I would assume.
That's all boring.
I don't know. I'm just guessing. But my wife will do that because I'm like the commentator. So now when we have friends over, I'm like, see what he's trying to do here is he's trying to get his right knee over, and he's going to look for a Kimura. But see, he's not going to let it happen because his left arm's on his elbow, and he needs the leverage here. He has no leverage. But and then they'll happen and and then they're like, oh shit, Will knows what he's talking about. Yeah. And I always feel cool.
We got Tony Roman in the building.
I should throw that out. I'm not always right. Yeah. But sometimes when I call it out, like, and then I remember catching myself, I'm like, maybe I'm annoying these guys. But then a lot of them are like, hey, Will, what's going on here? And so now that's kind of my role when we watch fights. Yeah. And I'm not the greatest person. I would never claim to be anyone like that. But I'm so into it where I'm like, oh, like most people like that fight was boring. I'm like, did you see those transitions?
Yeah.
I'm like so like into those movements and like, so you're absolutely right. Once you start learning it, you start respecting it and you start understanding how hard it is when you're like in side control just to even like get either whether it's north south or get one leg over to go into top mount, like the amount of stuff that it takes just to transition. That's not even talking about the actual submissions or anything. I don't know. Yeah, you're absolutely right though. You'll get way more into it, and it's I love it, man.
And the only background I have in stuff like that is I tried wrestling in high school, right? Well, the thing is too is that people, when I tell them to play high school sports, they assumed I was this size. But I graduated high school at 120 pounds. I mean, my most humbling moment in probably my life was so we're at football practice, right? And I'm a freshman or whatever. And I still remember it to this day. And we're going and coach is telling us to hit, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And I was hitting people, but I wasn't really hitting people. And so we're walking off the field and my defensive coach, he looks at me and he's like, Bernal, what are you doing out there? I was like, what do you mean? He's like, you need to hit somebody. I was like, nah, coach, I need to save myself. He's like, save yourself for what? I'm like, for college. He's like, college what? I was like, I'm going to play ball in college.
You know, you can do math with a broken leg, right?
And he's like, he looked around because man, the second he looked around, I was like, damn, this guy's about to tell me some shit. He's like, come here, Bernal. And he takes me into the locker room. He's like, listen, man, you're what? 115, 120 pounds soaking wet. You're 5 foot, what, 3? Because I was a freshman at the time.
Yeah.
And he's like, listen, man, unless you hit some erratic growth spurt or you can lift these weights like no other, you're not going to play college ball. This is the height of your football career. So make it count.
I love that he did that.
You know what I mean? Yeah. And I was just like, but in that instance, I was just like, he tore my soul out. He really did.
Yeah.
And then 2 weeks later, I got hurt to the point where I couldn't play anymore.
Oh.
So, you know what I mean? So,
I thought there was going to be some shining moment where you went all out in high school.
Absolutely not. I tried.
I appreciate the straight up, when people tell you something straight up. Oh, I did it young. But now I'm like, all right, like, thank you.
I love him to death for it. You know what I mean? He doesn't know that though. You know what I mean? So shout out to him. But yeah, that moment was like, dang, maybe I should figure something else out. I didn't, but
I think his intent, if I had to guess, was to trick you into going all out.
Oh yeah, man. I think that was the intent. He didn't realize he broke me.
There's really short people that do a lot of different sports, including football.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm sure at his moment, he's like, all right, I want this guy to play hard in practice.
But I think too, that's what makes me respect football so much.
Mm-hmm.
Because like there's running backs that are the same height as me.
Oh yeah.
But they're huge. You know what I mean? And they're fast. So like for me, because I was fast as a kid, and my crowning moment when I was in high school is that I ran and by NFL standards it's not that fast, but I ran a 4.5 4.40. So I was kind of moving. And I thought it was great, but I weighed 120 pounds. You know what I mean? So running a 4.5 at 120 pounds doesn't mean shit because you're not gonna knock anybody over.
Sounds pretty impressive to me.
You know what I mean? But then I saw like Maurice Jones-Drew, he's 5'6". But he weighs 205 pounds.
Austin Eckler's pretty short and big pretty short too, right?
Yeah. But yeah, man, but they move like the wind. So for me, football, I love football because like I understood like being little, I could be quick, but to play in the league, you got to be little, stocky, and quick. Yeah. And to put those characteristics together, and then, or you could be 300 pounds, but they move like cats. You know what I mean? And those physical attributes to me, it's the most impressive thing I could think of.
I wish they glorified other things in high school. And I liked sports, right? Like, and I was taller and I eventually got bigger and I played good basketball, but I wasn't the best person on my team. You know what I mean? I clearly didn't go to college. I wish that it was more cool to like promote other things, like real life things as well. I'm not saying to take away from the sports one. But if someone told me like, hey, you can be a counselor or you could be a doctor or you could, I mean, the smart kids knew what was up. They're doing that their whole lives probably because their parents trained them to be that way.
All day.
But just basic kids, I didn't have skills at all. And I remember being young thinking like, how am I even going to like have a life? Like, what am I going to do? And when people would ask me like, what's your plan? I'm like, college. Like, what are you going to do in college? Try to go to the NBA. Like what do you, I don't know.
I'm going to just start out with my basics.
Yeah. Probably won't declare until a few months in.
You know what I mean? We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I didn't know. I wish someone like told me like, hey man, like you could do this, you could do that, you could be a dog trainer, you could, I don't know. Like it wasn't very, very promoted to think outside the box. Like it really wasn't.
So my oldest Dante, he's in middle school, he's a 6th grader, and he hates sport. Like he'll watch them with me because he loves me.
Yeah.
But he doesn't like sweating, and the worst part about it, he's good at them. Like he's pretty lengthy for an 11-year-old, and he can move. And the way he swings his hips, I'm just like, "Yeah, kid, just be a cornerback, just try it out."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he doesn't want to, so I'm just like, well,
what does he want to do?
Well, and that's the thing. Like I tried for almost a year to try to find his niche. You know what I mean? So he got into the STEM program at Mesa, at Mesa Middle School, and he joined robotics. And then 6 months later, this kid's in Dallas at a world's robotics competition.
Ooh.
And I'm just like, okay, well, we found your niche. You know what I mean?
That's the thing, yeah.
And he just likes building shit. And like, so my fiance, we got them shelves, and she just handed him everything and the tools. She's like, hey, well, build your shelves, Dante. And
did he do it?
30 minutes later, I walk into the room. He's listening to I Want It That Way with his hat backwards on, screwing in the shelves.
Oh, did you guys get a video?
Oh, I'm pretty sure she does.
What an amazing
moment. It was.
What if he grows up to do some
that would be amazing.
Crazy stuff, and then you could show him that video?
And that's the thing. So the reason he started building robots is because I give him chores. So he wanted to build robots to do his chores. And I was like, that's very lazy, but most great ideas come from laziness.
Innovative.
Oh yeah. Innovation comes from laziness.
At least he didn't complain.
Exactly. And so he just took it and ran with it. And you can't. Most things he started out with Legos, but you couldn't give him a Lego set to last him long enough. And then we started with robots, and now we can't nothing lasts him long enough. So I'm just hoping he just stays on that path. And my youngest, he's a meathead. Like he loves football. Smart kid. I love him.
So those two are going to balance each other out.
Yeah.
Very well.
And it's so funny to have two people be the complete opposite sides of my personality. Like I have my oldest kid who was like me as a child, and then I have my youngest kid that's like me as an adult. And like, but they are so balanced, and so one doesn't want to do anything outside, the other just wants to go outside. But when we meet in the middle, so it's like I have my whole slew of interests in two bodies. So everything they like to do, I like to do. You know what I mean? So it's fun.
And you're relatable to both versions.
Oh yeah, it's great.
That's awesome, man. It's I always like hearing stories from fathers particularly, but just parents in general about the way they raise their kids. And there's so many things that get publicized about this for sure works, this for sure doesn't, and some of it's crazy, some of it's spot on. But I always wonder, because I don't have kids at all, but it's coming pretty soon, and I want to be able to like make those right choices. So I like hearing stories like that, because it's like, did you ever find yourself in a position where you're like, and you could think of it while I'm talking about it with either kid, was there ever a moment where you're like, should I address this or do I let it go? Like, do I let them be who they're doing right now, or should I tell them now? Like, is part of the reason why I figured out because I got to go through it, or can I save them some heartbreak or some like wasted time by addressing it now?
Oof. So,
like, if you saw your kid doing something that you know clearly is a bad habit, would you just let them work through it?
No, so growing up until I was about age 15, every time I asked my mother for anything, go somewhere, do something, it was no. Always no. And then when I turned 15, I asked her a question. I was like, hey, can I go hang out with my friend? And the first thing she said was, what do you think? And I was just like, huh? I'm not supposed to do that. You know what I mean? It hurts. So I was like, I think I should go. So she's like, okay, well, go with your friends. She's like, remember,
do you remember how old you were?
Like 14, 15.
Okay.
And she's like, yeah, go hang out with your friends. I was like, I'm probably going to stay the night. And she's like, yeah. And I was straight up with my mom my whole life. I was like, we're probably going to be drinking. And she's like, don't be coming home drunk. I'll whip your ass, whatever. So I was like, okay, cool. So my friend just lived down the street. So we stayed up all night playing Halo, drinking, 15. I come home, I walk home the next morning, just not inebriated, I'll say. I'm walking in, my mom's already up. She's like, how did it go? I was like, we had a good time. She's like, did you stay safe? And I'm like, yeah. And I was like, she's like, okay. And she's like, where are you going? I was like, I'm gonna go to sleep. She's like, okay. So I go lay down. I just blink. And then all of a sudden, Selena's blasting on the radio. She's banging every cabinet in the world that we have. And she busts open my door. She's like, remember you had yard work today? And I was just like, huh? She's like, yeah, you got to go clean the yard. And we lived in Chaparral. So we lived like on an acre lot of just a forest of tumbleweeds in the middle of summer. And she's like, get out there, clean the yard like you said you would.
She knew you were hungover.
Oh, she knew I was just dying. And out there, I'm just dying. So to connect that, the way I parent now isn't as hardcore as my mom did. But the way I parent now is still pretty stern. And a lot of people don't expect that from me. It's crazy. They don't expect me to be as like disciplinarian as I am.
Mm-hmm.
But I am. But I always end it. I always end it with, what did you learn? And you know I love you. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Everything always comes back to that. Because I know when I was a kid, I never got the chance to learn anything. Number one, it was just told to me. And number two, like, I never heard that last part. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So like to be able to give that to my kids, I'm gonna come at you like fire and brimstone. But after the 5-minute lecture and you learn your lesson, okay, daddy loves you. Do better. And that's how we end it. Every time.
That's amazing, man. I like that a lot. I always imagine me doing something similar to that.
Yeah.
And growing up in different foster homes, this is very, very common in Hispanic homes where it's like a family. Like when I lived with multiple different foster families that were Hispanic, and all of them are very similar in this way. Even though I was the weird white kid that moved in,
Mm-hmm.
and they would give me some shit about that, and I would get disciplined, whatever. But if some other kid came around, or if some other parent was doing something, like, hey, that's our kid,
Mm-hmm.
like you're in or you're out.
Oh yeah,
and
yeah.
it was just all about like, hey, I love you, I got you. When you do dumb stuff, I'm going to tell you.
Mm-hmm.
When you need to be corrected, I'm going to correct you. But I love you. And so I'm glad that you said that. There's an old Joe Rogan clip, who I'm a huge fan of, that he doesn't talk about his kids a lot. I don't know if you watch him at all. He rarely talks about.
I didn't know he had kids, to be honest with you.
He has 3. And he rarely talks about his kids or his wife. And they come up a little bit. But there's just one specific clip that I used to have saved and I can't find it. And he talked about how he talks to his kids. And again, the same way I asked you, I like to soak in information because I never know what I'll do.
Yeah.
But he was saying very similar to what you said, that he always tells, and he has daughters, all girls.
Oh, God.
And he'll tell them, hey, sweetie, you know I love you, right? And you know, no matter what you do in this world, like I'm always going to love you. Nothing will change that. You know that, right? Yes. Okay. You can't be mean to other kids. Like you just cannot do it. Like, and he would just go off on whatever story he was.
Mm-hmm.
And then that would be it. And he would tell them, hey, I'm disappointed in you. And then they would go, okay. And they would leave. But he said that he would always preface it because people forget children are human beings.
Mm-hmm.
That little baby girl is going to grow up to be a woman one day.
Mm-hmm.
And she needs to know those things and not just it be inferred. And I always like that. And I'm not a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I can only relate like, well, what were my parents like? And they didn't do anything remotely to that. And I'm like, and they were terrible parents. So maybe I'll go with that.
Yeah.
And so it was one of those
let me roll that way.
But I love that you said that, man, because I always think that's exactly how I will be. And if I'm not, like, I hope that my wife reminds me, hey, let them know that you're always going to love them.
Exactly.
And it sounds stupid. It's like, they know I'm going to love them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't. Like,
they don't.
I love my wife. If I stop saying it, she's eventually going to be like, hey, do you love me?
Exactly.
And if I go like, you know I love you, I'm with you. Like, she's like, yeah, I'm
here.
No, but yeah, I don't seem to hear it.
Yeah.
And so I always remind myself to tell her, like, hey, you know I love you. Can you put your dishes away?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I love you. Like, I love the shit out of you.
Yeah.
But when you do that, it makes me feel stupid.
Exactly.
Like, I have to always throw that in there, and it makes it better because it doesn't matter. I think that's a thing we do as men a lot, is we just assume they'll know. When you're in a long-term relationship or multiple relationships where you learn what not to do, I learned that real quick. I'm like, all right, I got to constantly remind her, not because she needs validation. Maybe she does. Who cares? That's for her to figure out. I know I do. I'll call myself out. I need to know sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Not physical stuff. Like, I never want to look pretty or look great or things. But, like, when I'm, like, protective and she tells me, like, hey, like, oh, my God, I'm so glad you were there. I thought that dude was going to go crazy.
That's all I wanted to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. It makes you, yeah, cool. I'm valued. It's right.
Yeah.
It's right. I'm just going to make fun of my hair, I bet.
Is it? Fuck him up. It's funny you said that word, though. I'll hit you on 2 points. So you said disappointed. So I always marry a Jimmy Johnson quote, right? He was the coach for the Cowboys when they won Super Bowls. He said, "You treat all your players fair, but you don't treat them the same." And I incorporate that with my kids because my kids have 2 different personalities. I can't discipline them the same, and I can't reward them the same because their reception of it is different.
Yeah.
So my oldest kid, if I look at him and I say, Dante, I'm disappointed with that decision, it's going to eat him alive. And like, or if I call him, like if my fiance calls me, they're like, hey, Dante didn't listen or something. I'll call him on his phone because he has phone. I'm that parent.
2022, baby.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll just call him and be like, Dante, we're gonna talk about this later. I'm very disappointed with you. And I'll hang up that phone. And when I get home, we don't even talk about it because I know the 3 hours that I wasn't home, that's all that went through his head, and that was punishment enough. He thought about what he did. He thought about everything. And he'll walk up to me. He'll be like, Daddy, I'm sorry. And I'll be like, no, buddy, it's okay, but just be better, okay? I love you. And he'll be good. Now, Odin, on the other hand, I'm like, bro, put your shit away, go to your room. You know what I mean? Because you have to punish him, like in a like a kind of a limiting sense, because he's just gonna
he responds better.
Yeah, he responds better that way, and that's the way he gets punished. Dante gets punished in his mind. Odin gets punished in his entertainment, and you have to like understand those points, and that's the hardest part about it. It's like the way it kind of like does that to you.
I think that's great advice, man. I'm figuring out, this may or may not be true, but I think by the time I'm done doing these podcasts, if I'm ever done, I'm going to have so much wisdom, man. And that's why I like doing them, because I thank you again for coming on, by the way. Like, I love having these conversations, man, because I could just take parts of everything that everyone says. And I don't know what kind of parent I'll be, but I know I got a lot of resources, man.
Oh, man,
I got a lot of perspective, man. And no, I'm so glad. We're getting close to time, my brother. How'd you feel so far?
Feel good, man.
Feels like we've been here for 5 minutes.
Yeah, how long
it goes by? It's been an hour and 20 minutes. Yeah.
Dang, look at that.
Dude, I had so much fun. Would you come on again?
Yeah, man.
Oh, my gosh.
Anytime you're ready.
I had a blast. Thanks for coming by. Ladies and gentlemen, German Bernard. Appreciate you, my brother.
My man.
All right, and we're out.